Hi everyone and welcome back to Dev Portal. In today's tutorial, we are diving into a crucial feature of Java 8, the optional classes. If you ever faced a null pointer exception in your code, then this is the tutorial for you. By the end of this video, you will know how to use optional to write cleaner, safe and more readable code. Let's get started. First, let's understand what is the optional class. It is introduced in Java 8 and optional is a container object used to represent the presence or absence of a value. Instead of checking for null manually, optional let us handle potential null values in a cleaner, safer and more readable way. The key benefits it provides are that first, it avoids null pointer exception, and second, it encourages functional style of programming and it make our code more readable. First, let me show you that how null pointer exceptions may occur in a code. So for that, I have created one user class which can contain two attributes, that is name and email. I have created parameterized constructor and getter and setters for those attributes. Second, I have created one class as user repository. This you can consider that this class will communicate to database and it will fetch the users from the DB. Currently we have not written any SQL for that because we are not connecting to the database, so I am manually returning the users by creating using constructor. So if ID is 1, it will return one user with name Nakul and email nakul@devportal.com. If ID is 2, then it will return a new user with Sahil as a name and email ID will be null. And if any other user ID or you can say ID we have provided, in that case it will return as null. So now it's time to write some code to fetch the user from the user repository. So first I will create user repository object. Suppose I have given this name as repo equal to new user repository, and now I will fetch one user equal to repo dot find user by ID, and ID I have provided 1. And what I will do, I will add sysout statement and I will print this user dot get name I will print, and second what I will do, I will print the email user dot get email. Let me add string here as well, name colon. So this is fine. Now let me save and run this code. So you can see it is printing name and email ID perfectly. Now I have changed find user by ID to 2. Now I want to fetch the user whose ID is equal to 2 in the system. Now again let me save and run the code. In that case you can see it is printing email as null. Ideally it should print that email ID does not exist. So for that we have to add the null check, that if email ID is null, in that case we need to show some default text. And second, this is one problem. Second problem is that if I provide ID as 3, if I save this code and run, now it will throw null pointer exception, because now from the database, that is the user repository, it is returning null to us, and that null value we are trying to access it to use get name and get email functions. So that's why we have got the null pointer exception. So what we need to do, we need to add one if block to check if user is not null. So now let me add one if block, if null not equal to user. In that case I will print this sysout statement. So let me copy this statement and let me delete it from here. And if user is null, in that case what we need to print, we need to print user does not exist, user not found, suppose I have written. Now if I save this code and run, now it has print user not found because we have added the null check in the if block. So if user is not null, it will print those values, that is the name or email. If user is null, in that case it will print user not found. That is one way to handle null pointer exception, but we will going to see that how optional class will help us to handle all these scenarios. So first let's see how we can create an optional object. There are particularly 3 ways. One is that we can use the Optional.of method. Second, we can use the Optional.ofNullable method, and third is that we can use Optional.empty method. So let me show you those methods first. So what I'm going to do, let me remove this if and else block. So let me create the object now. So I will write optional and I will import optional as well, and it will be of a string, and I will write non null value equal to Optional.of, and here I will provide the string hello Java 8. So one thing is that of method we need to use when we are sure that value is not null, and second we will create the object using of_nullable method. So I need to write optional again, optional string, and this time it will be nullable value equal to Optional.of_nullable I need to provide, and here I can provide null value as well. Now third I will create optional string, and this time it will be empty value equal to Optional.empty. So empty method is used to represent a empty optional explicitly. So we have created 3 optional objects using 3 different methods. One thing you need to notice that if I hover on Optional.of method, then it will explicitly throw null pointer exception if value is null. You can see in their documentation. This ensures we always know the state of our optional object. Now that we have created the optional objects, it's time to see how we can retrieve the values from that. So for that we have 3 methods. One is that get, which will retrieve the value if value is present, but throws an exception if it is empty. So we need to use it very carefully. Second is that orElse method, which will provide a default value if the optional is empty. And third is that orElseGet method, where we can which is similar to orElse, but here we can provide one supplier for the lazy computation. So now let me show you the example for that. So I will write sysout statement I will write, and I will write it here null non-null values dot get. Suppose this I have written, and if I save the code and run, so you can see it is printing hello Java 8. Now if what I will do, I will again add sysout statement, and this time I am going to use nullable value, and here I will write, because I know I have initialized it with null, so I will use orElse, and here I will provide a default string that will be the default value. Suppose let me print value. Now if I run this code, you can see it is printing default value, but we are not getting the null pointer exception. But same thing if I do with of method, as we have seen earlier, it will throw null pointer exception to us. You can see in the console as well. So this is the difference. So one more benefit, as from here we can see that if we use orElse, we have saved our if-else check, that is we are adding earlier in the code while checking the user is null or not. Now let's discuss what if we want to perform an action only when a value is present. This is where the ifPresent method shines. It allows us to pass a lambda function to execute when the value is present. Let me show you the example for that. So now I will write non-null value, I will write dot if present. If value is present, in that case what I will do, I will do value, I will add lambda expression, sysout statement I will add, and I will print that value. So let me save and run this code, and you can see it is printing hello Java 8. This will eliminate to add the null check in our code. That will make our code more concise. Optional really shines when we combine its methods. Let's say we want to transform a value if it present, or otherwise we want to provide a default value. For that case we are going to use map and orElse methods. So let me write a code for that. So what I am going to do, I will write optional again, optional, and it will be string equal to optional value equal to optional dot of I will use, and here, or not of, let me use of nullable, so that we can handle null pointer exception, and I will provide Java 8. Now I am going to use first map method, so, and I am going to convert this into the uppercase. So string, it will be uppercase value equal to optional value dot map, and here value, not value, I need to write a string, double colon operator I will use, and I am going to write to uppercase. And if value is not present, in that case I need to add or else, and I will print the default value. Default, I will return the default value, and this value I will print now. Sysout uppercase. Let me save and run this code. So you can see it has printed Java 8 in capital letters. So now it's time to see a real world scenario where we can use the optional classes. Already we have seen the user repository class that we have used to fetch the user. Now same class we are going to use, but this time we will use optional thing as well. So let me remove this code first, and few changes I need to do in my user repository class as well. That it is returning user here, but this time it will return optional user. So I will add optional, and I need to change these things as well. Here also we need to provide optional object, Optional.of, and I will create user inside this of method, new user. Same thing I am going to do here as well, Optional.of, and let me call new user here. Optional, let me correct this spelling, and here rather than returning null I am going to return optional as an empty, Optional.empty. Now our user repository is done. Here also I need to typecast user to optional user, so let me do it. So now few things we are going to do. One is that we will check if user is present. In that case we will print the details, and if user is not present then we will print user not found. So let me write the code for that. I will do user dot if present. In that case user or not user, suppose, okay, both places we have used user. Let me write user optional, UPTIONL. Same I will do it here. And if user present, in that case we will write user, and we will provide lambda expression here, and we will print the details. Sysout. First let me print the name of the user, name colon plus user dot get name, and second is the email, but we know email ID may exist and may not exist, so again I will use optional here. So I will write string email equal to optional dot nullable of nullable method we will call, and we will provide user dot get email we will provide, and if email does not exist, in that case we will write, or we will return email not found or email ID not exist. This is better message. And I will print this system.out.println email double colon email. Let me save this code, and this is if user is exist. Now let me write the code if user does not exist. So in that case we need to write if user dot is present, user optional dot is present. So if user is present, then we will doing above implementation. If user is not present, then it will be of not. Let me add not, so that now let me add sysout statement, and let me add user not found. Now if I save this code and run it for you, you can see it is printing user not found, because we have provided ID as 3, which is returning empty user, empty optional object. Now if I change it to 1, you can see it is printing name and email ID, and if I change it to 2, then it is printing name and email ID as email ID not exist. So this is the use of optional. So now let's discuss some of the advanced technique for using optional effectively. First, combine filter, map or orElse method for complex logic. And second, avoid using get method. We can use orElse or ifPresent method so that we can avoid runtime exceptions. Now let me show you another example where we will fetch the data on some particular use case, that is the filtering we will apply, and then we will see how we can implement orElse method in our result output. So let me write, first let me remove this entire code now, and here let me write a fresh code. So first let me create one optional object. So I will write optional and it will be of a string, and let me give some name, suppose result, and here I will write optional, and let me provide of, and this time I want to print dev portal suppose. And here what I'm going to do, I will filter it if it starts with D. So let me add filter and let me write name dot starts with capital D. If it starts with capital D, then it is fine. I will convert it into the uppercase. I will write string double colon operator to uppercase. If you don't know what is double colon operator, that I already explained in my previous tutorials. I will give you the link in the I section, you can check it out. So let me add semicolon, and now let me add the result, sysout statement. But one thing, suppose if value does not exist in our result, in that case we will use orElse method. So I will write result dot orElse, and if value does not exist, in that case I will write result or data not found, and let me print the output. So you can see it is printing dev portal in caps. Now if I change it to suppose small d, now it will print data not found. You can see in the console. So now let's recap what we have learned today for optional classes. We have used Optional.of, Optional.ofNullable and Optional.empty methods to create optional objects. Second, for retrieving the values, we have seen get method, orElse and ifPresent methods. Next, we have combined all these into a functional programming. And last, we have used optional to reduce null pointer exception risk in real world scenarios. That's it for today's tutorial on optional classes in Java. By using optional effectively, we can eliminate null check and write safer and more maintainable code. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Dev Portal for more Java content. Drop your questions or feedback in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.